have some live cams that people can go and watch and follow those hatchlings all the way through and watch them fledge. So anyway, conservation lands are doing great, Charlie. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. We appreciate your staff. We appreciate the support of the state as well and my colleagues. Thank you all so much. Enjoy the tour. Robinson Preserve has been an incredible success story for not just West Bradenton, but for Manatee County in general. It's developed a massive following of really sort of cult-like following, I would say. But you have a lot of folks who are starting to age to a point where they can't enjoy the preserve like they used to. And so we wanted to make sure that it's accessible to everybody in Manatee County, right? We want to make sure every taxpayer in the county can enjoy it. So the tram is handicap accessible for those who are, actually in a wheelchair, but also, we have a lot of folks who are just starting to age out, and they just can't walk a mile or 2 miles throughout the preserve and enjoy it the way they want to. So this way, they can hop on this electric tram. Doesn't make a lot of noise, doesn't scare off wildlife. You still enjoy the sounds and the sound of the breeze and the rustling trees and the animals as well. You get to enjoy all of that, and you get to enjoy your preserve at the same time. So that's why it was so important. I certainly hope that this is successful and that we see it at like Emerson or out at Duet and some of our other preserves as well. That would be fantastic. Listen, if our biggest problem is that we can't get enough people, we don't have enough space on this and that people are clamoring for it at other preserves, that's a great problem to have.
Well, it's an important part of my life, 17 years in the development, and it's important for this tram to come here because visitation here exceeds 200 to 250,000 a year. And what we're trying to do is make accommodations for all people of all ability. And as you can see behind us, it's a readily accessible type of a quick tour. It's going to be done with our professional staff to point out the important plants and animals of Florida that are found here in the preserve. And it's just exactly what we need. The timing is right, the weather is right, always. It's covered when it does get a little hotter, and you're going to find it's a very enjoyable experience.
And good evening, and welcome to the Board of County Commissioners' public hearing on the adoption of the tentative budget on Thursday, September 12th, 2024. And as we always do in all of our meetings, we worship our God and pledge to our great nation. So I'd like to ask Commissioner Bearden if he could do the invocation, and Commissioner Van Ossenbridge if he could do the pledge. Everybody rise, please.
Lord, thank you for another beautiful day. Lord, we just thank you for blessing us here in Manatee County, and we just continue to ask for wisdom and grace and favor over the county, over the people that's in this room, and we just give you glory and honor for it all. In Jesus' mighty name, amen.
I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, gentlemen. I think you almost got scared back there. County Administrator,
Yeah, I'd like
any
to,
remarks?
yeah, I'd like to introduce Sheila McLean, but before we do that, I just want to thank the staff. You can see it takes a village to bring this budget to you, and I appreciate all the hard work and dedication they do every day. Thank you, Sheila.
Sheila, if this goes very long, you're buying the pizza.
Mr. Chair, can I have pros talk?
Well, hang on for a second. Commissioner Beard.
I'm just going to get straight to it. I want to make a motion. I move the Manatee County Commission approve a reduction in the millage rate by 0.3 mills for the upcoming fiscal year. This adjustment is proposed in order to provide tax relief to our residents while maintaining essential services and funding our priorities effectively. The current millage rate stands at 6.2326, which has been in place for 2 years. The proposed decrease of 0.3 mills will result in a $17,628,065 reduction in revenue. This reduction will be from our current general fund. The decrease is proposed in response to economic conditions that our everyday Manatee County residents are facing challenges on a daily basis, and it aims to ease the financial burden on our residents while ensuring that we continue to meet our core responsibilities.
There's a motion, and by Commissioner Bearden to reduce the millage by 0.3 mills.
You want that, Amanda, or no? Otherwise, I'll second it.
So, no.
Second.
Okay. Discussion.
So, can I get on the board?
Yeah, well, yeah. Let's.
Well, actually, maybe there's somebody already on the board. It
Let me get
appears
this thing
so.
on. Let me flip over there. Why is it not? Oh. Commissioner Cruz.
I put myself on after she asked.
No, you can go ahead.
Oh, gee. Of course, not very long.
Yeah, the planning commission mixed up our microphone today.
Seriously. And I was going to spend $17 million fixing these microphones. Yeah, I guess my question is, one, I'd like to hear the presentation. I'm not adverse to it, honestly. I've made all the motions to lower millage on my time on this board. I love lowering the millage if there's cushion to do so without negatively impacting critical services. So I'm okay with it, but my question is, I guess, more of a dialogue to Commissioner Beard. Have you sat with the county administrator and the CFO to discuss where the $17 million is coming from?
You're not down. There you are.
I've sat down with Madam CFO, and we discussed it in detail in regards to that. However, I've brought it back to her to figure out where we're going to take it out, but I think it is necessary that we do a reduction. It's just been, all I hear out there in the public is how people are hurting, and every penny counts, every dollar counts. And so I'm going to leave it to the experts to figure out where we need to make that reduction. If the whole county, we may even look at the constitutional officers may need to drop, their budget as well across the board. We're going to have to work together as a team because, as we all know, we're in a large inflation period right now, and people are suffering out there, and we want to make sure that we can save they can save every dollar they can so they can continue to put food on the table and pay their bills.
Okay. Are you, as part of your presentation today, are you in a position to show us where the $17 million is proposed to come from? Do we have that excess relative to reserves where it's just a simple thing like 2 years, I guess 3 years ago now, geez, I've been up here too long. We just temporarily suspended the environmental collection and funded it through reserves. So that's how we got that 0.2 the one time, and the 0.3, we had some extra reserves and we discussed where it's coming from. Do you know where this 0.3 mil is going to come from at this point in time?
No, sir.
No. What would be our timing of having a better handle on where that money would come from? And we're making a vote today, and then we're coming back shortly to finalize this. I just want to know where it's coming from, because we have some big budget numbers on some of the line items, and I don't think anyone up here is going to come after $17 million from some of those bigger line items. I see them staring at me in the corner over there. So I just want to make sure I know where it's coming from, and I'll be okay with it. My number one concern is just there could be a reduction in revenue in the near future because, one, there's a budget, there's an amendment on the ballot this year in November to index the homestead exemption, which is going to start lowering revenue stream for municipalities if that passes, and I fully intend to vote in favor of it, and it's going to lower it. Second, with Live Local, now all the affordable housing projects can come to us and start getting tax abatements based on state law, which is going to lower revenue further. So, and we have the potential, if there ever is a recession or at least a slowdown, and in general, that's going to start impacting it, sales taxes and things like that. So, my concern is there's going to most likely be a reduction in revenue in subsequent years, which we haven't accounted for in terms of pro forma. Once we lower these taxes, nobody up on this board, current sitting members or future sitting members, are going to increase the millage. So, we need to make sure this 17 million is coming from someplace that's not causing any issues relative to services, because it's going to probably get worse before it gets better relative to revenue.
And if I may, Commissioner, thank you for that. So one of the areas in which potentially we can look into cutting is capital infrastructure. And we have a very aggressive capital improvement plan, so $17 million will have to either come from the reduction in capital infrastructure, which we have a lot of projects that are intensely requiring funding, but also an impact of this magnitude will also have an impact on our rollback rate, and we will go back into a negative rollback rate with a 0.3. What rollback rate means is that growth in the county is really not working on our behalf. It's actually damaging the county. A negative rollback rate means that our revenues are not exercising the growth that all these revenues would have come with the assessed values growth. It means that we will have to, one, reduce levels of service or reduce our capital infrastructure. Three, seek for other meanings of revenues to balance the instability that a reduction in millage of this magnitude is going to bring to the county. So what type of revenues can we affect in regards? One, we could approach it by increasing our sales tax. Two, we could potentially go for a stormwater fee that could help us mitigate the impact that stormwater is in the county. And potentially in the coming years, when the infrastructure sales tax dollars start easing off with this half a penny, the county could potentially aspire to have a 1 penny increase into it. That would be things that could accommodate, helping us to stabilize our revenue stream, which is going to be impacted severely. There is other implications to reducing the millage and growing into negative rollback. One, our bond ratings will decrease. Two, the reduction of our revenues will require the county to go back to have to bond and go seek for debt for a larger amount. You know, if we do not change the capital improvement plan infrastructure structure that it is currently. If we seek to reduce other areas of expenses, public safety, public works, maintenance, where are going to be the areas that is a administration decision, that is not a CFO decision, sir. So can we start this conversation? Sure. Do we have enough time to do that? I feel like that should have started a while back, because we are at the point of meeting the 100 days of a trim process to complete that process. So we are going to be very tight on time. Tomorrow we have to publish our second public hearing with the current, with whatever the millage that is being tentatively adopted today. So we would have to recalculate all the documents that already has been submitted to the Department of Revenue. 2 years ago, when we did that on the first public hearing, I had to call the Department of Revenue to let them know that we were doing this, when all the forms to the Department of Revenue had already been submitted on August the 4th. Does it have more than these implications? I feel like these are very significant. This is my advice to you. I mean, the board can make their decisions as they want, but it is my recommendation that this will have such a large impact into the county.
Commissioner Cruz, you good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. Commissioner Ballard?
Thank you. So I share some of Commissioner Cruz's concerns, and I have been thinking about a potential alternative that doesn't impact us into the future, and I'm not sure how feasible this is, and I know it's very, very short notice, but I'm wondering if we have the ability to provide a one-time tax rebate to our citizens at the amount of calculated at a 0.3 reduction for 2024 only. So we collect the tax and then we cut a check to each resident at the rate that they would be reduced for that 0.3 for this year only. So it's not a millage reduction, it's a one-time rebate to help families this year as they're hurting with inflation. I know that it's very short notice, and it's a lot to kind of chew on, and I don't know if logistically how easy it would be to do, but I think it's something worth looking at.
So the Department of Revenue is very strict with the trim process, and we would have, in order to give a rebate, and that is the decision of the board, after we collect the revenues that we would collect under the current millage at 6.2326. It's a decision, it's a board's decision whether later you want to receive these dollars and the $17 million get distributed accordingly to the citizens, homeowners of Manatee County, that to help them with the burden of inflation and so forth. We would have to adopt the millage as it is to be able to accomplish that. And I would like the county attorney to opine a little bit as to is something that, you know, I've never in my years with the county have ever heard of a rebate. So, I mean, I would like to opine and get a little bit of more of a documented reason to the board.
Thank you. And I know it's an unusual idea. I actually called the county attorney to ask about it, and I think she thought it was quite creative as well.
Commissioner Turner, go ahead.
Yeah, I think if we were going to try and do something like this, it should have been brought up much prior to this. I think we're kind of rushing it. It needs to be vetted out with our CFO and her team, first off. Secondly, I agree with Commissioner Cruz. Critical services could be impacted by it. We know CIP would have to be impacted, and we've got all kinds of infrastructure challenges right now. I just think the timing is just not great right now, and then to rush something like this at the last minute doesn't make sense to me. Also, our sheriff's department has been deferring expenses for a few years right now, and they're needing extra money at the moment, justified money. All of these things swirling, CIP, infrastructure, the sheriff's department. I mean, there's too many things moving right now that we've kind of committed to, and where do we find the money? I just think if this needed to be brought forward, it needed to be brought forward a long time ago when we could flush it out and go at this in a professional manner instead of just knee-jerk.
Commissioner Van Ossenbridge.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I was going to wait till after the presentation before I said anything, but I did make it clear to Mr. Pilichowski and to Mr. Bishop weeks ago that I intended to make a motion to cut taxes today. So this is not something that's just been tossed on staff. I didn't tell them by what amount, but I told them I was looking to make a significant cut. I like the 0.3, so I'll support it, excuse me. But this isn't something that is surprising to staff at all.
Seems surprising to Sheila.
Yeah, well, I didn't have that conversation with her, but her bosses were made aware. So, and Commissioner Bearden says he's spoken with her about it. Said he met with her, actually. Look, lowering taxes is not easy. It's actually a difficult thing to do. And the truth is that we could sit up here and we could come up with infinite reasons to maintain the tax rate or to raise it. Just for clarification, again, the motion would reduce revenue by how much?
$17 million.
$17 million. And the total budget, when combined, our total budget is what?
Our total net budget is $1.3 billion.
Is that operating or is that
It's inclusive of everything.
inclusive of everything? So $1.3 billion, and we're talking about 17 million. Something tells me we can find a way, if people are paying 20% more for rent, 20% more for food, 20% more for fuel, something tells me we can find a way to cut 17 million out of $1.3 billion. Each of us up here is a conservative Republican. Each of us up here came here to reduce government. Each of us up here came here to cut taxes. And the truth is that Commissioner Cruz and I are the only two that have actually had the privilege of cutting taxes. I would tell the rest of you, this is your opportunity. This is your chance.
Can I ask you a question?
Can you dialogue?
Oh, absolutely.
What's the average positive impact to a citizen, dollar-wise?
It would depend on the value of their property,
Well,
obviously.
I know. I'm just, that's why I said average.
$105 over the course of the entire year, about $8 a month.
$105.
So you get a free cup of coffee.
Yeah, so I guess my concern is,
Hang on,
we're not curing. a
He's
20
dialoguing. Stop,
Yeah, hold on.
please. He's dialoguing.
I mean, it's a valid point. Do our constituents care about $8 a month? I mean, 20% in inflation, I agree. All of these things I agree with, except there's not a significant impact to the constituents, and we're putting a lot of things at risk that we have planned here.
So this is the third time in my term that I've had the opportunity to cut taxes. And so while one cut may not make a huge significant impact, multiple do. It also ensures that government is not growing. It ensures that government is going the opposite direction, which is what all of us want and what our citizens want as well. It sends a strong message to the citizens that we are essentially, we are ensuring that government is not going to continue to grow this year. And it is their cup of coffee. It is their $105, not ours. And if you ask people, would you give up $105 so that the county government doesn't have to stress over where to make cuts. And I'm sure in a $1.3 billion budget, I promise you, there's $17 million in there that can be cut, and people are not going to feel the impact. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Beard.
Best way to increase revenue is to cut costs. And I'm asking that we all go back, the constitutionals, every one of them, and us as well, to see how we can work together as a team to reduce this to 0.3. Because I am telling you right now, I am hearing it every day that I go out and meet with people, and I can hear how people are suffering. And I just had a meeting this morning, and they're struggling. So, yes, it is $105, but it's their $105 that, guess what? That may be a half a week's worth of groceries. Those people that are barely making $10, $12 an hour out there, that's significant. So it's important that we go back to the drawing board with the other constitutionals, and we work together as a team to ensure that we get this reduction down. It's important. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Cruz.
Yeah, I'm listening to what everyone's saying and trying to talk myself into this. I'm not trying to talk myself out of it or try to dissuade it, but I mean, some of the comments made, like someone said, you know, it's not easy cutting taxes. It's very easy to cut taxes. We're doing it right now, spur of the moment. What's hard to do is budget once you've cut the taxes, and there are some people that can easily cut taxes because they don't have to handle the budget portion of it and the implications of it. Like, you can cut taxes by 2 and run out the door. Like, other people are gonna have to deal with the implications of how to make that money work. So, you know, we're talking about everyone going back. It's September 12th. We can't ask Sheriff Wells and you know, and Satcher and Burton and everybody else to go back now. That ship sailed. Having constitutional officers go back. We're way past the point of that. That was a June conversation of, hey, I want everybody to go back and collectively find 5%, 10% and bring that back to us. That was a good thing. That would have been a great time to do it, is asking everyone to trim a little. Now that's done. Now all the trim comes from us, and we keep saying 1.3 billion. It's not 1.3 billion. First off, a big chunk of that's utilities. That comes from rates. That does not come from this tax that we're discussing right here. That's a huge chunk of it right there. Big chunk of it comes to CIP. That comes from gas taxes and IST and a million other things. What we're talking about is general funds. Let's at least use real numbers here. We're not talking about 17 million off of 1.3. We're talking 17 million off of like 300 million, or whatever the number is. That's the net of general operating expenses. That's 100% of these dollars. So let's use real numbers, because that's disingenuous to try to use those other ones because they're not coming from this source. And 50% of that is the sheriff's budget. Nobody here is going to want to cut a single penny out of the sheriff's budget, nor am I going to. So now you cut that in half. Now we're looking at 150 to 250 million, 150 to 200 million dollars of operating, and 17 million is coming out. That's like 10%. Now we're talking real numbers here. Now we're talking meaningful impact here. And so that's the issue we're dealing with. Let's focus on this thing. This would have been a great conversation previously. This would have been a conversation I was on board with. Everyone wants to find ways of trimming money and saying everyone else needs to find it. I mean, not to keep beating a dead horse on these impact fees, but when we didn't increase the impact fees, we were told by the CFO that we were going to float $300 million of new bonds to help offset the impact fees. We didn't want to increase, and that was going to result in $15 million of additional debt service. There's your $17 million right there. If you would have charged the proper amount of those fees, we would have saved $15 million in debt service that could have been offset by lowering the taxes to the citizens, and we could have lowered this by 0.3 and not cost us a single penny of service whatsoever. So everything ties into everything else with a budget. Everything does. Whether it's how much we charge for water, or what we get for gas taxes, or what we ask for in Tallahassee, or what we do with them, everything ties together. We didn't do those other steps. We can't come at the 11th hour now and say we should have done this, we could have done this, or make people do this. Unfortunately, that ship has sailed. What would be a great exercise is to have the board sit here and say, our goal, Manatee County's goal, is to lower the millage significantly in September 2025, and we're going to work diligently to find alternative revenue streams, understand the real implications of some of these tax cuts that are coming to us, whether we want them to or not, most likely, and plan ahead and structure this government and shrink the government first and have a surplus this year. Maybe we take $17 million more than we probably want to. Let's find those $17 million in savings and have that left over in a bucket in September 2025 when we're all sitting here. And then let's just slash the hell out of this thing. And I'm on board with that because we'll have put it in the proper context of doing the expenses first and then cutting the revenue second. That's the proper way, I believe, to do it, and that's just my opinion. I'm leaving it at that. But there was a time and place for it. I would have been on board with it and time and place for it. I just can't get comfortable that we know where this money is going to come from, and I'm not going to stress our staff into coming up with $17 million. You can't cut something instantly. That's not the way things work.
Commissioner Beard.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just going to have to say that, you know, things can change in regards to people you meet out there in the public, and they're telling you how bad they're struggling every single day. I'm hearing it. I'm seeing it, right? You got that mother out there that is struggling. She can't even purchase a table so that her and her child can have dinner. They're eating on the couch. So we need to figure this out. However, we need to figure out, we have experts, they've got degrees from Ivy League schools, right? That's why we pay them the big bucks, so they can come together and figure this out. Where can we make these cuts? Where can the constitutionals make these cuts? It's important, and the people need this. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Van Ossenbridge.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Commissioner Cruz, the first time you and I had the privilege of cutting taxes, I was surprised that this was the process, and you made the motion to cut taxes, and I felt like it came out of nowhere, and I made very similar arguments to what you made today about the timing and the process, and it was eventually explained to me that is the process and that is the timing, and I ultimately ended up voting for it at the next meeting. I think you pulled it at that meeting, and we voted for it at the next meeting. This is the process, and you were aware that this is the process. This isn't like it's being sprung. This is when these things come forward, and at both times that we've cut taxes, this was when it was brought forward, and this is when it was voted on.
Sure. Are you done?
You good?
Okay.
Yeah, I was just waiting for him to respond.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
It's on
no,
the board,
I will say, the first time I did it was .2, and myself, and I was Jan Brewer at the time, and Scott Hopes sat down and went through the entire budget beforehand and created the .2 by temporarily lowering the library millage by .05 and suspending the .15 environmental land tax and funding both those through the general reserve excess fund that we all said we wanted to deplete down as best we could, that extra little fake reserve. So it wasn't out of nowhere. I sat with the financial team and the county administrator ahead of time, and we knew exactly to the penny where that .2 was coming from before we showed up here. That was it was announced here because of sunshine, but I walked in here knowing where every single penny of the .2 was coming from ahead of time, having worked with them to find that money first. So that's just the way that went. I agree that the process is terrible. So I don't disagree that this is where you do that. But both times I've made the motion to lower the taxes, I did sit with the CFO, I did sit with the county administrator, and understand the second time we brought it back, I said, this is my intention to bring it back. I said, it's somewhere between this range and this range. They looked at it, we worked out, here's where that money can come from, and then they provided a table of different scenarios. Having sat down and discussed, is this feasibly possible before I make this motion? And I was told, yes, it's feasibly possible before I made the motion. Again, to you all, that's up front because of sunshine, but to the staff, we were ahead of it.
Well, similarly, I've told the administrator weeks ago that I intended to make a significant cut in taxes. Granted, Commissioner Bearden beat me to the punch. He beat Sheila to the punch, too, before she could make her presentation. But at any rate, I did let him know weeks ago. I didn't get into the weeds and tell him exactly how I wanted it funded, but I gave him proper notice and let them know so that they would have ample time to prepare.
Understood, and I think this is getting more contentious than it probably needs to be. Everybody up here has a right to make a motion to lower taxes. I'm not disputing that whatsoever. You have 100% right, and I respect that right. We all have a right to have an opinion about how taxes should be lowered and when they should be lowered, and are concerned about the future. So I'm not trying to be adversarial. I just disagree with lowering the taxes without having a better handle on where that money is going to come from, and concerned about whether or not that money can come from somewhere. That's just my opinion. I respect the motion all day long, and I respect the process all day long. I just disagree with the motion that's being made.
You good, Commissioner Cruz? You were on the board, I take it, okay. All right, we have a motion on the board by Commissioner Bearden, seconded by Commissioner Van Ostenbridge.
Well, we need
Well,
to have public comment.
Yes, I'm going to. Yes, ma'am. All right. Can we have public comment regarding this motion to reduce the mill by 0.3 mils?
Come on, Mike. Make it happen for me.
Come on.
I thought he'd be running to the podium.
Sir, please state your name, the county residence, and you have 3 minutes, sir.
Manatee County citizen. This information is hot off the press.
Give me that mic, yeah, David, thank you.
Okay.
Only the paper needs
So the
microphone.
answer to the question, do we have enough money in the budget? Right now, through the first 10 months of this fiscal year, your surplus is $414 million. So you could send a rebate check out tomorrow and have a surplus of a little under $400 million. This, by the way, is the largest surplus at this point in the budget cycle over the last 7, 8 years that I've been doing this, that I've ever seen. The annual surpluses have been $200 million a year since roughly 2017. So I wouldn't be worried about having to cut anybody's expenses, in the operating area or the constitutional areas. You're just raking in the money constantly. And the primary reason is revenues have been coming in much higher than predicted, and the CIP has come in much lower than predicted. I noticed in the 25 proposal, there's a CIP of $500 million. Does anybody know what the CIP year-to-date for the county is this year? It's $200 million. It's not even close to what the CIP is an accounting gimmick that allows you to say you have a balanced budget. But the reality is you have not spent your CIP in many, many years. So you're flush with cash. If you look at just the unrestricted cash on your balance sheet, which is $805 million, that's money that on your balance sheet can be used for any purpose. And right now it's not being used for anything because it's in a money market fund making 5%, providing no benefit to Manatee County citizens. It's $805 million just sitting in a money market fund. It's not circulating in Manatee County's economy. It's been extracted from the citizens, put into a money market fund, and providing no benefit. I had, several concepts. I'm going to go a step further than Commissioner Bearden. I love the fact that your mind is right with a 0.3 and Kevin. I love the fact that you're thinking about 0.3. But the reality is you could do a much bigger property tax credit than that. You could do a $100 million property tax credit for this year. And I'll give you some reasons.
Got 18 seconds.
It will help you reduce your multiple years of extravagant surpluses, which have run about $200 million annually. It'll move you toward compliance with Florida statute. It will financially support Manatee County citizens who are struggling with a 20% cost of living.
Thank you very much, sir.
Keep going.
No, sir, you got to do 3 minutes.
You have options.
You got 3 minutes, sir. You got 3 minutes. unless,
Oh, there's the rest of it right there.
yes, sir.
3 minutes for this issue? You have an option to offer me more time.
I'd like to, Madam CFO, I would like to ask you to come up and speak to Mr. Meehan's calculations, because his and ours seem to be a lot different. Well, excuse me. Is there anybody else in public comment like to come forward and speak on this? I don't know. Is there anyone on the phone that would like to speak regarding public comment on this item?
Not at this time, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, sir. All right, I'll go ahead and close public comment. Madam CFO.
So if I'm supposed to put a rebuttal out there for Mr. Meehan is saying, there is a lot of in our financial statements that are recorded differently than what our real true story is. Yes, we do have $2 billion sitting in an investment account, but of those $2 billion, of that $865 million is the capital improvement plan and monies that we have received from grants that have been awarded to the county that are fully restricted for a purpose and committed for a purpose. Anything beyond that is already funding sources that by Florida statute we cannot touch for because they have a specific purpose. Impact fees can only spend in the district where they were levied on, they were collected on, so they can only be used for capital infrastructure. All this cash that we are seeing in those investments accounts have a direct purpose. The only one, and I have said this a million times, is the general fund. The general fund only has in their reserves approximately $86 million in unrestricted reserves. Of that, 50% is fully coming from property taxes. So that's all I have to say of our financials.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, we've had public comment, close public comment. Madam CFO has responded. We have a motion on the board, moved by Commissioner Bearden, seconded by Commissioner Van Ossenbridge, to motion to reduce the millage by 0.3 mils. Cast your votes now. And the motion fails 4-2. Madam CFO, are you ready for your presentation?
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to reduce the millage by 0.2.
I second.
You're killing me. Okay, all right. Now we have a motion on the board to reduce the mill 0.2.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
can Sheila opine what that impact will be?
Madam CFO, can you opine on what a 0.2 mil reduction would be?
A 0.2 mil reduction represents $14 million on property taxes.
Can you guys put the motion on the board? All right, thank you, Vicki.
It would also put the county at a negative rollback rate of 2%.
Okay. All right, there has been a motion made. I'm asked for public comment.
You have to call for
I will,
public comment.
again. There's been a motion made, adoption to reduce the mill by 0.2. Is there any public comment with regards to this, the new motion on the 0.2? Mr. Meehan, you're up again.
more than 17 million. Sheila, your numbers were. That doesn't make sense. The point three. Never mind. Finish your public comment.
Yeah, I'll let you, get on the board, please.
Well, like I said, a 14 or 15 million dollar millage cut against a year-to-date surplus of 414 million and a 5-year cumulative surplus of over $1 billion. You have unrestricted cash right now, which can be used for any county purpose of $800 million. Any county purpose. It's not restricted in any sense. It's unrestricted cash. So you can apply the $17 million 0.3 millage or 0.2 to your $800 million of unrestricted cash. This dialogue is all about an income statement. You're ignoring the fact you have a balance sheet that is completely overcapitalized in relation to your operations. Completely overcapitalized. Florida statute says you can only have $300 million on your balance sheet. You have, let's just look at unrestricted cash. You have $800 million on your balance sheet. You are in violation of Florida statute by $500 million right now. So it seems to me it would be incumbent to take this opportunity of a millage cut to start moving toward compliance with Florida statute, because you're $500 million over right now. So look at your balance sheet. That's not, the balance sheet is a source of funds for you. Many governments, when they're trying to do, let's say, a project like this, look to their balance sheet, which in your case is extravagantly overfunded to achieve this goal of a millage reduction. It doesn't have to be revenues less expense. That's the income statement. The income statement will satisfy this because you have a $400 million surplus. But your balance sheet will also satisfy this because you have $800 million of unrestricted cash. You got all this cash and it's just in a money market fund. And as Commissioner Bearden says, and Commissioner Van Ostenbridge says, you know, people are hurting. It's only $105 for the average property taxpayer. Well, they'll probably take it. I'm suggesting a much more impactful budget response equal to $100 million, which would be about a 25% property tax credit. You'll still have $700 million on your balance sheet. When you're said and done, you'll probably still have a surplus. So I'll let you figure it out.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone on the phone with regard to public comment on this item on the new motion?
We have one caller on the line, sir.
All right. Caller, please state your name, county residence, and you have 3 minutes.
Charlene Gow, KOW, Manatee County. I'm listening to Mr. Meehan. I appreciate his opinions that he routinely offers in the press, and the surplus is certainly concerning and seems to give room to reduce the millage. But at the same time, you know, you guys have got to be careful because the impact fee chickens are coming home to roost here. And I just want you to be careful. I mean, yes, find a way to balance this, you know, what you can to help people right now because we're in a pretty sad shape with inflation in this country. But I appreciate the work you all are doing. Just please do your best to balance it all. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there anyone else on the line to give public comment on this item?
Not at this time, Mr. Chair.
Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to come forward and give public comment? Then I'll close public comment. I would like Madam CFO to address Mr. Meehan's claim that we are in violation of Florida statute on our unrestricted cash of $805 million. I guess if we're in violation of Florida statute, we'd have the Department of Revenue to be down here, but.
So we are not in violation. Florida statute allows for all the capital improvement dollars that have been reserved for the capital improvement to be backed out of that calculation, so we are not in violation of Florida statute by no all means. if we were in violation of Florida statute, we would already have the Inspector General sitting and knocking on our door.
Mr. Chair, while the CFO is up here, if I could ask her a question.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Van
regarding
Ostenbridge.
A .3 was a $17 million reduction, but then a .2, we were told was a $14 million reduction, but am I missing something?
The numbers were incorrect. The 17 million was .25. It was labeled .3 in the packet. .1 is $7 million. .2 is 14. .3 should have been 21 million. The
Yes.
17 million was .25. It's just labeled wrong on the packet.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, so .2 is 14, all right.
$14 million.
All right. Thank you, Madam CFO.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we've had public comment. Madam CFO has discussed the .2. There is a motion on the board by Commissioner Van Ostenbridge, seconded by Commissioner Bearden, to reduce the millage by .2. Please cast your votes at this time. And it is a 3-4 to tie, so the motion fails. Commissioner Cruz.
Here's what I say, because I know, I mean, I could probably guess what's going to happen next. So to save us the trouble.
If you're .99.
Look, we're all on the same page that the global idea is to save people money, but we also need to make sure we're taking care of things. And there's things that have come up that we're not budgeting for yet, like the flooding and stormwater that's going to you. Someone mentioned stormwater fee, and that was a hugely contentious thing in 2020. I mean, Commissioner Van Ostenbridge and I campaigned all over town on the stormwater fee, and that was $80 a year or something like that.
65.
$65 a year, and people were up in arms over that thing. But now they're up in arms about the flooding because we didn't have a stormwater fee to fix the stormwater and to do our stuff. So, but if we fix stormwater, then that could lower people's insurance rates. If we shrink the size of minimum lot sizes, that can lower people's housing costs. There's a lot of ways we can lower people's cost of living and help them with inflation outside of just, the millage is the easy, lazy thing to do. It's like, look at us, we lowered it by 0.1 next. What's that gonna work out to? Like $4 a month? Or something like that, less than that, because it's $8 a month at the 0.3.
I wanted more. You voted
No, I understand. I'm just saying, we're getting to a point here where I think, like, my votes don't have anything to do with the number. It has to do with the lack of understanding where it's going to come from and a concern about future years, because I don't want to ever raise taxes, and I don't know what our taxes are going to look like. But I also know we need to fix the stormwater. We need to fix some things around here. We need to account for the infrastructure that we don't have other revenue streams from. So again, I'd still say, if we can find cuts, let's find cuts. We should always be looking for cuts. Every day we should be looking for cuts. If we find the cuts, that money should be redirected to things that this community needs right now, like the stormwater issues and so forth, which are going to lower insurance costs and lower housing costs and create the savings that we're creating here, but in a way that makes people's quality of life better as well, not just a couple of bucks here and there just for the people who pay taxes, because not everyone pays taxes, but everyone's dealing with flooded roads. So that would be my request is let's focus on a 2025 meaningful cut, focus on coming up with the savings, but focusing on making sure that we're redirecting money towards the important things in Manatee County right now. Because I know the next motion is going to be 0.1, and then after that's 0.5, and then 0.01, and everyone's going to get 4 cents a month savings, just to say we cut it. But I think this is more of a bigger issue, and I think there's better ways of saving more meaningful money for people in Manatee County than what's effectively going to be a nominal millage cut at this point in time.
Commissioner Van Ostenbridge.
Mr. Chair, I move that we reduce the millage by 0.15.
I second.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Van Ostenbridge, seconded by Commissioner Bearden to reduce the millage by 0.15. Yes, sir. Thank you. I'm opening it for public comment. Would anyone like to give public comment on the current motion of reduction of 0.15?
Let's go, Mike. Take us home.
This feels like the House of Commons in Britain. Yes.
The Tories have not come
Okay,
after you
To
yet.
get to the Florida statute comment that I made, it's very clear. It says that county reserves are limited to 30% of the projected budget for the upcoming year. So let's look at your budget. It's 1.3, is that your upcoming budget, times 0.3? So that's 390 million bucks. 0.3 times your upcoming budget, 390 million bucks, and you have 800 million in unrestricted cash. That does not even include the restricted cash, which is over $1 billion. So I mean, if Florida Department of Revenue wanted to be nasty about it, they could look at that $2 billion in total cash and tell you to cut it back. I'm being very generous and just looking at the unrestricted. So you are definitely in violation. If anybody reads that statute, I'm sorry I didn't bring it with me tonight because I could put it on the screen, but it's there. Again, the income statement shows a $400 million surplus. Your balance sheet has got $800 million in unrestricted cash, and you're having trouble figuring out where $17 million is going to come from. It's just common sense. You're not going to be cutting anything. No services will be cut, no constitutional offices will be impacted, but the citizens will be helped and the economy will be helped because the money is no longer in a money market fund, it's circulating back in Manatee County's economy. So you take a $100 million property tax credit times the velocity of money 6 times a year, a dollar changes over. This is from the St. Louis Fed. You do a $100 million property tax credit times 6, you got a $600 million injection into Manatee County's economy, which raises your sales taxes, collections. So maybe the answer is you have improved sales tax collection because you've re-injected that money back into the economy, into Manatee County's economy.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone on the line that wants to speak to the motion to reduce the mill by 0.15?
Not at this time, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, sir. All right, Commissioner Cruz. Thank you, sir. Commissioner Cruz.
Sheila. What number are we getting down to where you're sleeping tonight, where you figure this, that you could just move a few things around and maybe tell everyone to put one less olive on the salad and we're good to go? Like without going back, because we don't have time to go back to constitutional officers and say, everyone start figuring out how to slash your budget. There's no time for that. Nobody wants to cut the CIP any further because we've already been cutting the CIP due to other revenue streams. That's
I mean, it's
the olive on a salad was an airline thing where they saved, yeah, all right. Go ahead.
0.05 mils, which is the equivalent of 3.525, will bring down the stabilization in general fund without having to cut anybody else. And it will leave approximately $1.1 million in stabilization in the general fund, but it will not attack anybody's budget. It stays the same as it is right now. All that impacts is the general fund stabilization fund. If we reduce at 0.05.
Commissioner Ballard.
So I am concerned that revenues in years to come may be lower. So I just am very concerned about lowering the millage to this extent. I would like to hear if there is anybody who has any thought about a one-time rebate, other commissioners, if there's any interest in that, because that's something, again, that we can do that's significant to help people right now without mortgaging this county's future. I would also be comfortable with a millage reduction that is very modest in the amount that our CFO believes is manageable and appropriate.
Thank you, ma'am. Commissioner Beard.
It's hard for me to believe, knowing the fact that I've been through CPA classes and, high-level stuff, to know the fact that there's nobody that can make cuts, right? I find it hard to believe. It's like, if I'm about to buy a business, he's gonna show me the number that he wants, right? It's maybe not the actual number. So, it's just really hard for me to believe that nobody, I'm talking everybody across the board, not just us, but everybody across the board can't cut just a little bit here to help lessen the burden for the citizens of Manatee County. It's just really hard for me to believe. And that's why I'm so strong on this. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thanks, sir. Commissioner Van Ostenbridge.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm becoming a little bit frustrated here that we're running a $1.3 billion organization, and I said that I was going to move to make a significant tax reduction. We're down to 0.15, and it's the end of the world, and no one expected it. So I think we're addressing the wrong person here, and I'm going to ask the administrator is if it is possible for his administration to find 0.15, I'm down to like 10 million bucks here, right? Is it possible, Mr. Administrator, for you to find $10 million in cuts in this proposed budget in your administration?
Sheila, does the .15 affect a rollback at all?
The .15 reduces the rollback rate to a negative 1.29% rollback.
Say it again, sir, ma'am.
The .15 millage reduction, which is the question, correct, will place us at a negative rollback of 1.29%.
What's the break even on that?
We are,
Your base value at the .07.
our 6.2326, we are very close to rollback, which is our current millage.
But the question was, can we find it? We were prepared. I wasn't prepared for a .3. We've been talking with leadership all along about a .05, a .1, a .15. I will remind the board, there is 27 positions recommended in the budget. I do have the authority with the 2,200 employees as through attrition, as one leaves, I can reclassify that position. We understand the importance of public safety. We understand the importance of 911, our lifeguards. That was the majority of the request. We have one more meeting. Give me the opportunity to look at these 27 positions. Give me an opportunity to sit down with Evan, Courtney, Andy, Ryan, and Sheila and see where we could find the money. I believe it's doable. You always challenge us, and I think we always come through for you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thanks, sir. Commissioner Cruz.
Well, now I'm not sure, so what's the game plan? What do we have to do today if we're sending the county administrator back to fire lifeguards?
Don't say that. We're not firing lifeguards. We're not firing anybody. It's through attrition.
So what do we have to do today? Do we have to pick a millage today and?
Today, we have to set the tentative millage. It's one of the requirements of TRIM.
Look, if you revised your, I'm still not fully comfortable that we're finding it, but if you revised it to reduce it to .10, you're saying half of it comes from the stabilization reserve? That covers half of it. The other half of it the other .05 comes from Charlie and his team coming up with some savings. That's an easy savings to do. It's not a problem. Everyone gets to say we reduce taxes one more time. Everyone gets a couple extra bucks in their pocket. We all focus on 2025 and getting a meaningful reduction. Kind of everybody wins and nobody wins at the same time. I'll vote for a .10.
Well, I was waiting for your response.
So I'm trying to come up with a scenario.
Okay. All right.
If I may, Chairman.
Yes, ma'am. I was waiting for your response. Yes, ma'am.
The positions, there was 27 positions added into the FY25 budget for a total investment in positions of $3.1 million.
Now, what that means, so everybody understands, when somebody retires, it could be a librarian, it could be a parks maintenance technician, a building trade worker, I have the ability to reclassify that position to a more needed position. They're all needed. Some services will be cut. That's what happens when you reduce the millage. But we understand the importance of public safety.
Commissioner Ballard.
I do have a question. So John Marble will be opening and will need staffing. Will that be affected?
We've, yeah, during the CIP process, during the budget process, we put those positions in the budget.
Okay.
Yep. You got your lifeguards.
I will. My lifeguard.
No, you got more than lifeguards over there. All right. The 1.5 represents, you said, what, 10 million? 9.5. Your 1.5 gets you 10 million. 10.5 million.
10.5.
All right. Oh, your abacus isn't working. All right, so we have we've had public comment. Madam Attorney, you looking like you're going to say something?
Oh, no, I
Okay.
just want to make sure.
All right, so we've had public comment. There's been a motion made by Commissioner Van Ossenbridge, seconded by Commissioner Bearden, to reduce the millage to .15. Everyone cast their votes at this time. The 1.5 carries 4-2. So the millage has been reduced to 1.5.
By 0.15.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, with that said,
Yeah.
we have the ability to come back, Sheila, I'm asking, we
Yeah.
have the ability for the next meeting to tell you where we're going to find the remaining 6.5 million.
Okay.
3.5 come
We-
out of the
We'll
reduction of the
task that to
27.
you and leave it to you and your staff to come back at Tuesday's meeting with where the additional funds are coming from.
So with this reduction of the 0.15, the county now pledges not a notice of proposed tax increase, but we have to do a referendum now. So I have to go back and change all my publications that I was prepared to do tonight. So I will have to go back and show you how that's going to be.
So you'll have to burn some midnight oil and get all your publications corrected. Is that what you're just saying?
Yes, because we no longer have a notice of proposed tax increase
Okay.
because we reverted to below rollback. So now I have to do all sorts of calculations, and the publication is totally different in the advertisement for the second public hearing.
So the second public hearing would still be on Tuesday, the 17th, correct?
Yes, sir, because I have to meet the statutory requirement of the 5 days after publication,
Okay.
after this meeting.
All right. Okay. Madam Attorney, the resolutions that we all stand, I mean, they've all basically essentially have changed, correct? With the adoption of the millage at 1.5.
Well, I'm gonna defer to Sheila, Ms. McLean here, the CFO, as to whether we need to modify the resolutions now, bring them before the board now, or, do we need to recess and amend them tonight? I'm seeing some members of her staff shaking their
That's
head.
what we did 2 years ago.
Okay, so we'll have to take a recess, give you guys the time to change the numbers now, and the board will come back tonight?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
How long,
That's what I'm asking.
yeah, how long do you need?
Madam CFO, how much time do you need?
This is not a small task.
I know that, I understand, yes, ma'am, thank you. We have 4 resolutions that you're going to have to,
No, just one.
just one?
It's the one that changes the tentative millage. It's Resolution B2501.
Oh, okay, yeah, the other one's an MTU, okay. All right, so how much time would you need to redo that resolution?
I already calculated all those numbers, sir. I just need to put it in the resolution so that we can give the board records the correct number.
Okay, so you need 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 45, an hour,
Yes, because I need to go and print those documents out, so maybe 10 minutes?
10 minutes?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Wow.
So what we'll do, what we'll do is we will recess until 7:20. And when Madam CFO comes back with the updated resolution. We stand in recess. Madam CFO, are you ready to present? We're basically just going to do the trim because that's statutorily required, correct? All right, so Madam CFO, if you could continue, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, as per then the requirements of TRIM, I have to place several motions that I have to read as is. So the first one first motion is to move to adopt Resolution B25001 for the tentative millage rates for fiscal year 24-25, here set at 6.0826 with a reduction of 0.15. You have to
Okay.
vote individually.
Individual, okay. So we have a motion to adopt the tentative millage and budget. This is for public hearing. The motion's been moved by Commissioner Van Ostenbridge, second by Commissioner Bearden. Is there anyone in the audience that'd like to come forward and give public comment on the adoption of the tentative budget, millage and budget? So you know one in the audience, is there anyone on the call? Is there any callers on the line for this item?
Not at this time, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you. So motion is moved by Commissioner, close public comment. Commissioner, the motion is moved by Commissioner Van Ostenbridge, second by Commissioner Bearden. If you cast your votes at this time. The motion carries 6-0. Madam CFO.
The second motion, and this one is move to adopt Resolution B25-002, which adopts the tentative budget for fiscal year 2024-25, which also includes the unincorporated municipal services taxing unit and Palm Air Municipal Services Tax Unit, excluding the supervisor of elections. In this vote, Commissioner Ballard would have to abstain. Oh, sorry, on this one, because we excluded the supervisor.
Okay. Looking for someone to move the motion number 2. All right, motion number 2 has been moved by Commissioner Ballard, second by Commissioner Bearden. Open up for public comment. Is there anyone in the audience that would come forward in public comment? See no one in the audience. Is there anyone on the call that would like to give public comment?
Not at this time, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you very much. I'll go ahead and close public comment. If everyone could cast their votes at this time. And the motion carries 6-0. Madam CFO.
Motion number 3, move to adopt Resolution B25003, which adopts the tentative budget for fiscal year 24-25 of all identified Manatee County dependent special districts, Law Library and the Historical Society.
Someone move number 3. The motion is moved by Commissioner Cruz, seconded by Commissioner Bearden. I'll open it for public comment. Is there anyone in the audience like to come forward and give public comment? Seeing none, is there anyone on the call that would like to give public comment on motion number 3?
None, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, sir. Seeing none, I'll go ahead and close public comment, and if everyone could cast their votes at this time. And the motion carries 6-0. Madam CFO.
Motion number 4, move to adopt Resolution B-25004, which adopts the tentative budget for fiscal year 24-25 for the Supervisor of Elections.
All right. This is the one that Commissioner Ballard has to recuse herself from. All right, thank you.
Yes, and so I believe per statute, I have to publicly state that I will be abstaining from this vote. My husband is an employee of the Supervisor of Elections.
And you've been provided Form 8B to complete.
I have that right here.
And it's signed and dated.
Correct.
Okay. All right. All right, the motion number 4 has been moved by Commissioner Van Ostenbridge, seconded by Commissioner Bearden. I'll open it for public comment. Is there any audience who would like to come and give public comment on motion number 4? Seeing none, is there anyone on the call for motion number 4?
None, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, sir. If we can cast your votes at this time with Commissioner Ballard recusing herself. All right, thank you very much. The motion carries 5-0, again with Commissioner Ballard recusing herself. Madam CFO.
I here announce that the aggregate millage rate for Manatee County for fiscal year 2024-2025 is 6.5415 mills, and the change from the rollback aggregate millage rate of 6.6271 mills for the operating millage is hereby determined to be negative 1.2923%. And this completes our
That completes your presentation?
session. Yes, sir.
All right. Are there any other further comments or questions of Madam CFO? Any commissioner comments? We stand adjourned. What? Oh, you have to announce the second hearing, sorry.
So the second public hearing is set to be on September 17 at 6 p.m. right here on the chambers on the first floor of the administration building.
Thank you, Madam CFO. We stand adjourned.